join us, and Janice was not able to join us. But it is noon and we do have a quorum, so in the interest of time, I will go ahead and get the meeting started. So before we jump to the agenda, I just, in case you haven't heard yet, today is a tough day here in the city of Houston. Mayor Turner passed away. He was a giant. He was a public servant till the end, and he loved Houston. So it's a tough day here for
Yeah.
us.
I'm
With
sorry,
that,
y'all. He was awesome.
he was a great man. Um, so for today's agenda, I'm going to start off with roll call. So bear with me. I apologize. I'm sorry.
Take
David
as much
Chin.
time as you need.
Thank you. David Chin.
Present.
Keith Edgar. He has not joined yet. Okay. Mark Fairchild.
Present.
Janice Jucker has told us she's absent. Julie Mabry.
Present.
Sharon Stewart. Thank you. Okay. So before we begin and jump into the agenda, I do need a motion to for someone to designate me as the presiding officer for the meeting. And then I'll need to take a vote. So do I have a motion to designate Maria Ershad as the presiding officer for this meeting?
Motion made.
Thank you, Mark. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, David. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. So for today's agenda, I thank you all for responding to our doodle poll and making time today kind of at the last minute. We did have a regular scheduled meeting last week that I know was challenging for most of our committee, so we didn't have a quorum. And I did ask to reschedule it because we finally have information that we could present to you so that we could possibly get a vote today and kick off projects that we've been trying to get quotes on for a while now. It's been a little bit challenging. Thank you, Keith, for joining us. So I see Keith just joined us. I'll update that. So thank you for making the time today. On the agenda for today, we're gonna approve the minutes per the norm. Our last meeting was August of 24, so hopefully you guys have had a chance to review those minutes. I have quotes and information for the WOW roundabout on the upgrades that we wanted to make there. I'm going to present to you again the traffic signal control, the traffic box murals that we discussed some time back. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the HPD program. We'll give you the metered parking update, the financials, the compliance update, and at the end, we will take any public comments. I know we have one speaker on the phone who may have comments, and then we'll adjourn. So let's go ahead and dive in. Next slide, please, Cynthia. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the last meeting's minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mark. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Sure. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you all. Approved. Next slide, please. So we have been talking about this WOW roundabout for at least a year now. Just trying to get more information about what we can do. It started off, the lights were not on. There was nothing going on. We were able to get the electric turned on. We were able to get kind of some of the fixture cleaned, so the lights were a little bit better. But what we were not able to do for a long time was try and figure out the inner workings of this light art sculpture. It is all custom made. Everything is very unique. And we were having challenges just reaching out to any electrician. Most did not want to touch it. We were finally able to track down the electrician that actually worked with the artist, who was familiar with this, and then getting them to give us a quote was something that we had been working on for the past few weeks. So what they have presented to us is we have multiple quotes from the same vendor for all the work at all the electrical and light work that needs to be redone at the roundabout. So I'm gonna walk you through each of them. The first is a quote for the two light sculptures. So that is a total of $60,200. And what that will do, it will replace 14 light heads. So that's the bulbs at the top. It'll replace 6 base LED fixtures. So at the base of each of the art sculptures, there's lights in there. So it's going to replace all those. It's going to provide 2 data enablers, and that is the programming for the lighting. So what all this replacement would do is, I don't know if you've driven by there at night, but one of the lights is very, very weak, and the other one is pretty, it's okay. So per the electrician, all this equipment is basically replacing what is already in there. It's not off the shelf, but they said if we wanted to do something that would be off the shelf that we could update in the future, it would require all new electric wiring at a much more significant cost. So this is why we kind of went with the option to just change the bulbs that are in there. And at least now we know who the vendor is and they understand what needs to be replaced in there. So we're in a little bit of a better position. The lead time for the order is 10 to 12 weeks. So it'll, because it is a little custom, it's going to take them 10 to 12 weeks before they order it, and they will order it only upon receipt of a purchase order from the city. So that is the two
What's the
light
cost
sculptures.
of going off the shelf? Do we have that?
They did not even provide that because they were not sure how much electrical conduit would be needed, because they'd have to replace all of the wiring that's throughout the art. And I think then it becomes challenging because then we've probably got to engage the artist at some point.
So, Maria, this is Fisk, right?
Yes.
Has Fisk given you a satisfactory explanation of what's happening down there and what it is they're going to do to ensure that both of the lighting structures work as they're designed to work?
Yeah, I think there's some conduit that's along the outside that would be repaired in the landscape and the pathway lighting, I believe. But that's something that, once we put it out to bid, like right now, this is an informal quote. Once we put it out for a bid, in order to issue the purchase order, we ask for more detailed information about, like what their guarantee and all would be.
Yeah, I asked because I'm not quite sure that we've ever gotten an explanation that makes sense as to why the structure on the south side is so dim in relation to the structure on the north side. So
right, we've heard multiple things, so I think no one's really going to know until they get down in there. That's kind of what I've come to the conclusion, that until they really get in there, I don't think anyone's really going to know.
So we have to put this out to bid. We can't take this under the $50,000 threshold some way?
Well, so
Or because they do a bunch of work with the city, they're already over it?
they are, well, because it's over 50,000, it's going to have to go through city council for approval.
Right.
Especially since the next one, which is for the landscape and the pathway lighting, which is $69,000. So there was, you might recall they look kind of like skinny ballers. They have lights on top of them throughout the 4 corners where the signs are. And then you have signs that, lights that uplight all the neighborhood signs, the Woodcrest and the Crestwood and the Rice Military. So that is a $69,000 quote to replace and update all those lights and ensure the electric is correct. So this is definitely going to have to go through city council for approval. But we still have to bid it out. Like, I have to have like a more detailed quote.
Gotcha.
And then that detailed quote is what goes to city council. I do plan on, if y'all vote to approve, moving forward, that we would do it as a sole source, because there is enough evidence to support that this is a sole source project because of the uniqueness and the art, the relation to art more than just standard light bulbs that are being put in. So I will do a sole source. I'm not going to look for quotes from anyone else, but we will have to get a little bit more detailed information before I take it to city council.
What do
So
you
we'll
mean
take a
again
little
by
time.
sole source? Sorry, that means we'll only ask Fisk, or you'll only ask Fisk?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. No other electrician was really willing to give us any information on it. They were very confused. They were not quite understanding of it because of the custom nature of the lighting.
And the landscape and pathway lighting, you're talking about not only the lighting of the 4 neighborhood signs, but you're talking about all of the pathway lighting that exists around that
All
whole
the
traffic
pathway.
circle.
Yep.
So
all the
there's
pathway.
embedded up lighting in there. There is a buried pathway lighting that's under, years of decomposed granite and filth and dirt. So you're talking about bringing all of that back to life.
Bringing it all back up to what it was when it was first installed.
Okay. There's a lot of
Wow.
lighting down there.
There was a lot of lighting. So
What about the uplighting in the center of the traffic circle that illuminates that 190-year-old tree?
So on the pathway lighting, I have 3 LED bar fixtures for the signs. I have 6 pathway bollards, 25 ground fixtures, and 8 tree fixtures. So the tree fixtures, I'll have to double check if it includes the one in the circle, because I don't know how many trees are out there that have fixtures, but we can double check on that.
Well, my guess is based upon the quote you just said that they're not including any uplighting of that big oak tree in the center, and that's fine.
And did we want to include that? Because I think the circle, my understanding was that was under the TERS, and they were handling that.
Well, I think they were going to handle the landscaping of that, but I'm not sure they're going to do anything electrical out there. And listen, it might be a safety issue as well. Lighting up that tree. I mean, I know they used to have a bunch of native grass out there in the middle of that thing, and it's still there. That's just cut down every time the landscape, the guys go out there to mow it. And it could have been a problem, with basically a visibility triangle as you drove around that circle if you couldn't see because of the native grass that was out there. So, and it could have been that way for the lighting too. I just don't know. But there is very large lighting fixtures in the ground out there that more than likely used to provide uplighting on that old oak tree. And that can be handled as a separate project too, because there's got to be electricity that goes out there as well, and there's electrical boxes and stuff out there.
Okay.
Is
Can
there
you go over
irrigation
again?
out there?
Oops.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Is there irrigation out there? Is there any sprinkler systems?
I think the circle has irrigation. I'm not sure about the 4 corners, like where the signs are. I don't believe there's irrigation there. There's
Are we
also
gonna
not a
do
lot of,
anything with the irrigation?
Well,
not on the circle.
Could we engage? Well, Ashakira Robinson, I believe, Keith, they were the landscape architect or landscape and irrigation architect for that project originally.
Yeah.
Can you
Did you
go
want
over
me to?
again what the 69.13 is going to cover? The lighting of the signs at the 4 corners?
And the
That seems
pathway lighting, there's
Oh,
bollards, there's uplighting, there's 8 trees with uplighting, there's 25 ground fixtures, 6 pathway bollards,
What's a
3
bollard?
LED.
Sorry.
A bollard is like a pillar. It's like
So
a little
it's-
pillar.
Yeah, it's going to be like about 3 foot tall. It's gonna be probably this big around and it's gonna have
Yeah.
some downlighting from the top of the from the top of the structure. Just think
Oh.
about this, and then you've got a little piece that comes off like that, and there's a light underneath here that basically it's pathway lighting.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize there was that much lighting around there. Okay.
Well, there used to be.
Okay. Yeah. Or that there used to be.
And the bollards are, many of them are still out there that just don't work.
They
Okay.
don't work. Nothing works.
Is it 100% sure that Tiers 5 is doing the landscaping inside the circle? Have they committed to that or whatever they need to do?
It is on their project list.
Okay.
And obviously that can change, but it is a project that they have identified that they are going to undertake.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
So we have not looked into irrigation or anything like that. Right now, we were just focused on getting all of the electric and the lighting back up to par. So those are the two quotes that I wanted to present today. Do y'all have any more questions on that?
No.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. So I still have other items for the roundabout that I wanted to present to you. So the other thing is, right now, the circle at the roundabout is being cared for by I believe, the Gray Star landscapers. So we wanted to have someone look at the corners because we've got trees overgrown there. There's, there's weeds where there's a little bit of grass. So we have asked that same landscaper who does the circle in the middle to give us a quote for the four corners. So what they suggested is every other week, with an annual fee of $6,419. So they would come out there and do every other week maintenance. And these are the different services that they would do there. That we have some trees that need trimming. They would also take care of that, only one time under the contract, but this would be a recurring cost for the PBD. The other costs that I just presented to you are one time. And then of course we have electric for those lights, which is recurring. This would be a recurring for the landscaping. And again, we would probably have to put this out to bid. So while we have a quote for $6,400, someone could probably come in with a lower quote. We could probably find a city contract. It's not necessarily going to be the same guy. So, but it would be approximately that much annually, recurring basis.
Who's the Gray Star landscaper now who provided this quote?
I don't recall their name right now. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's okay.
Okay. Any questions on that landscaping quote?
So Gray Star's no longer doing the landscaping, so
Well, they do the circle. But where you have the four, like, I keep calling them corners. I don't know if they're corners, but the corners where where the neighborhood signs are, it's not always clear if anyone's doing it over there.
Not on the Camp Logan side, just a neighbor every once in a while.
I think they do it on the one that's like right in front of their buildings, and then the other
Yeah.
side, the Woodcrest and the Crest and the Camp Logan one, they don't go to,
Yeah.
is what I think is going on.
because they manage both the Westcott and the Elon.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
That seems high for that little amount of stuff.
Okay, so that was the one quote, and like I said, this is an estimate. So once if it gets approved by y'all, we have to put it out for bid because it's over $3,000, and we may come back with something that's lower than that. But we get a quote so that we can get you to vote on like a max spending amount, and then we want to try and find something underneath that. Okay, so this was the landscaping. The next slide, please. We also, can you go back one slide? Did we skip a slide? This one, yes, sorry. We asked the same landscaper, so you have those pathways on the corners where you can walk. which were originally, kind of, they were composed of crushed granite. That granite has pretty much, it's gone. When it rains, it's muddy there. You get, there's granite in some spots. It's just not a complete crushed granite pathway the way it used to be. So we asked them for a quote, just one time to refill all the pathways with crushed granite. And then moving forward, we'd have to look at it and do it on an as needed basis, because I'm not sure what the routine is to refill the pathways. But for a one time, they gave us a quote of $1,702, which would be about 5 yards of decomposed granite that would fill up all the pathways. And then we would just keep monitoring it to see how long that lasts, to understand what kind of path we need to take moving forward. And I'm sure the Parks Department could probably assist with that as well. Okay. So those were the 3 issues around the WOW roundabout that we have been focused on for the past few months. And these are the quotes that we've provided to you in order to talk about maybe taking a vote and moving forward on some of these projects so that we can get some things going. So if I don't have any questions, what I wanted to propose is that the committee vote to approve. First, let's say, do we have any questions before I go through the whole motion I'm asking for?
No.
I'm good.
Okay, so for the WOW roundabout, what I would like the committee to think about, and maybe you can take action on today, is make a motion to approve a max of $60,200 for the WOW light sculpture light bulb replacements. A motion to allocate $69,130 for the WOW roundabout landscaping pathway lighting. And then $1,702 for the granite refill for the WOW pathways. And then we want to take a motion on one recurring cost, which would be a max of $6,419 for landscaping. So what that would be is a total of $137,451 in order to get the lighting repaired at the 2 sculptures. We have all the lighting in the pathways and the signs. Refill the granite pathways.
Lori, why not just make them round dollars, like $65,000
Okay.
for the lighting, $70,000 for the pathway lighting, $2,000 for the decomposed granite, and $7,000 for the maintenance. I mean, that's kind of where we're basically saying that, we're making a motion to set aside, if you will, those dollars or encumber those
contingency.
dollars subject to, our ability to get, an appropriate quote to effectively do the work.
Right. Mhm.
I mean, we're not spending the money today. We're just voting to encumber those dollars towards these projects, subject to, appropriate quotes and, whatever.
Yep, all the state procurement laws, which we have a
Right.
significant amount of those. So, is that something that we're ready to do today?
I believe so.
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so do I have a motion to allocate $65,000 to repair the WOW light sculpture lighting?
Yeah.
Motion made.
Thank you for the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, perfect. So we've allocated $65,000 for the light replacements. Now I need a motion for, let's just say $75,000 to rehab all the landscape pathway lighting at the WOW roundabout. Do I have a motion for $75,000?
Motion made.
Thank you, Mark. Second,
Second it.
thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I need a motion for $2,000 to refill the granite and all the WOW pathways.
Motion made.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you.
Did we miss the annual maintenance one?
I
Coming
was
up.
just going there.
Oh, sorry.
Do I have motion to allocate $7,000 for annual landscaping fees for the maintenance of the roundabout?
Motion made.
Thank you, Mark. Second,
it. Second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
So how much did we just encumber? 140
Yeah.
plus 9, so 149?
I can't do that math in my head, Mark. You're asking me to go beyond my.
You said 65, 75, 2, and 7. Yeah, 149.
Yeah. 149. So y'all have 400 and something in the bank,
Yeah, which is about 35% of what we have in the bank.
right?
So we still have a spending problem.
I'm
Not a
trying.
problem to have.
Okay, all right, thank you, congratulations. We'll get that work started as soon as possible. It does have to go to city council, so it will be a little bit of time. It won't happen quickly, so.
Just
All right.
so I can report back to Camp Logan, timing wise, do you think city council in March and April?
That is not in my hands. I can't determine that.
Okay.
Once I get the item ready for agenda, I still have to go through procurement and then we have to
Okay.
take it to agenda, so it could be. It
Could be 6 months.
It could be 6. It just depends on what else is in front of me in line.
Okay, thank you.
And you're going
Yeah.
into budget season, so
Yeah, so that slows everything down. Okay, can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So at the last meeting, there was interest in doing murals on some traffic control boxes. We reached out to Public Works and the mayor's arts office. We have asked for 6. There are 6 traffic control signal boxes on Washington, from Houston all the way down to Westcott. They only approved 3. So these are the 3 that were approved: Washington at Studemont, Washington at Shepherd, and Washington at Durham. The estimate is $3,000 per box. This is something that is usually handled by the Arts Alliance. They put out an RFP or a bid request, and artists submit their responses, and then they're selected and they go through. Is this something that y'all want to consider today, or do we want to just kind of put it on the back burner for a little while? I don't know the interest level on this.
I think they're attractive.
Those
What
corners are
other
pretty.
I think
elements
they
are
look
we
good.
looking at?
I'm sorry, did
I'm sorry,
David,
Julie,
did you
what?
say something?
I think they look good.
Okay, Julie, you like them? Sharon likes them?
I like them.
Those
Needs
I was
some
just
corners are
wondering what
pretty
other
ugly
projects are we
already.
looking at?
Yes, so that is basically the end of the projects. The other thing that I'm looking at is the HPD enhanced security that we've already got as an existing project, and I was gonna present that to you next. But this is kind of it. We've been focused on the lighting and trying to get that information, so I really didn't have the resources to start looking at other projects. But if y'all have any ideas that you want us to run down, we can look into those and just kind of put this on the back burner for now. It's up to you. Unless someone wants to make a motion. If you want to make a motion, if you want to do all 3, I would recommend allocating 10,000 total for the project. Or we could just put it on hold.
I'm
Keith, you've
okay
been
with
awfully
it.
quiet today.
Yeah,
Who?
You guys are doing a great job. I didn't need to interject.
Well, what do you think about the murals on the traffic boxes?
I think they're fancy and it adds some color to the neighborhood,
Yeah, I would agree.
you know, you know, Mari addressed my concern of graffiti. I mean, I'm 100% convinced there will be graffiti on it within 24 hours. The question I have is, she said that we could remove it. What budget and or, you know, how are we going to not have that be an issue that every time there's some graffiti, somebody's got to be called, or how's that going to be monitored, I guess?
Well, I mean, we get graffiti on our machines and
Yeah.
we have the solvents to remove it. Now for the murals on these boxes, I'm not sure what the removal, that's something that we'll have to ask the mayor's office. I do know that I've seen them like all over town and I rarely see graffiti on them. I think people like tagging like the blank ones is my,
Yeah,
I
That's
don't
what
think
I've
they
seen.
mess with the art ones. I think for some reason, I have not seen one that has gotten defaced. I think it's very rare, but I can ask the mayor's office. I'm sure they have a program in place. They must have thought about this for the arts.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we have a plan in place and we know that the paint is solvent resistant, that you can remove the graffiti without disturbing the art. I guess they put some kind of sealant over it.
Yeah.
You know, some kind of coating
Yeah,
that goes over the paint that you can wash the graffiti off, because it won't take long. You know, every AT&T fiber box in my neighborhood is gang tatted up. But like you said, those are the blank ones.
yeah, yeah. I think they like tagging the blank stuff. I think they show some respect for the artist, maybe. That's
yeah,
what I think.
that's what I was
So,
saying.
yeah, I think they're like, if someone
I'm
works
not so
hard on
convinced, but okay.
that.
It'll be a
So-
good test.
Okay, so do I have a motion to move forward on this with a budget of $10,000?
I'll give the motion.
Thank you, Sharon. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Julie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, congratulations. Another project. This is great. I will reach out to the to MOCA. That's the mayor's office for cultural affairs, not arts. I'm sorry. And we'll kick it off and get it going. And see what's next. So thank you. Okay. All right, so let's go to the next slide. I wanted to give you an update on the enhanced security. So in January of 23, y'all allocated $50,000 for HPD overtime security patrols. And these are typically, when these are used, is for the big kind of drinking events, you know, St. Patrick's Day, Cinco de Mayo, July 4th, things that bring a lot of people to Washington where there's a lot of activity going on. And so we used some of that funding in the past few years. We were also we got lucky because Councilmember came and funded a lot of stuff that they didn't need funding from the PBD. So our money went a little bit further. So the balance after what we spent in 23, it was at $29,330. So for this year, HPD has reached out. They did want to do patrols on St. Patrick's Day and Cinco de Mayo. So because we have the funding, that it's going to cost about $17,400 for those 2 days, which will bring us to a balance of $11,930. So that's what we'll have left in that project budget. What I wanted to recommend to the committee is that we consider allocating $38,000 back to the HPD security program. That will bring us up to about 50,000, which was the original allocation, so that we can keep coordinating with HPD on events moving forward. And when HPD has the funding for their own, they come to us last. If they can get it from somewhere else first, they go there. So that's how we were able to make it, you know, the 50,000 go quite far. But do y'all have any questions, or I know that there are concerns about paying for HPD. I understand that. is there something that we want to discuss about this? What are y'all's thoughts on continuing with this?
Well, I
Well,
mean,
I would say, since no one has spoke up, um, if we're going to do this, I'd like to see a targeted approach that, and maybe it's not just a weekend,
Yeah.
but the ongoing, I'm less concerned about a single weekend, and I'm more concerned about the street racing, the street takeover, the motorcycles in the parking lots are revving their engines and spinning out. And if we could target their effort to sitting in the parking lots where the guys have their motors at 8,000 RPMs and writing those tickets,
Okay.
and trying to curb um, that behavior, to me, that would be beneficial to the neighborhood, because that's what is affecting us now. It's the motorcycles peeling out. It's also a safety concern as well. The police do not chase the motorcyclists. They can't catch them. And that's well known. But if you catch them at the source, and the policemen are tasked to simply stand in the parking lot and wait for somebody to rev their motors and write them tickets for that, I would find that to be beneficial.
Keith, are these the parking lots that are just over there, like in front of where Hart used to be, and the ones by what is it called now? Sidebar?
Yeah, the old Kung Fu and Clutch.
Yeah, those
That's,
parking lots.
yeah, those two parking lots. I mean, it's 4 nights a week that there's, it's become, I guess it's a cultural thing now, that you get a Dodge Hellcat and you sit in the parking lot and you throttle as loud as it can go. You peel out the motorcycles. They get 4 or 5 of those guys and just sit there and rev their motors.
Okay, let me talk to HPD and see if we can have a more targeted approach versus using it for holidays.
That would be beneficial.
Okay.
I've got
Did
a question. For people just revving their engines in parking lots, what, is it the sound ordinance, a noise ordinance that they want to be, you think they could be ticketed for?
that's an HPD question. I don't know the answer, but I'm sure there's something with reckless
That's
behavior
a-
or something like that.
I would imagine that's probably a sound ordinance. So if y'all have your cameras, and I mean, I would imagine that would be kind of bothersome to have to do that yourselves, but that would be a sound ordinance ticket, I think, which is very expensive.
It's also up to the owner of the parking lot to say, yes, these people can hang out, or no. I went to an
Right.
HPD meeting, and the people who own Specs at Westcott and Memorial Drive, they were going to try to reach out to those because they congregate there. So maybe reaching out to the, I don't know who could do it, the owners of the parking lots.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
going to be kind of a sticky issue, right? Because it's private property, right? You're doing into the public right of way. That's one thing. HPD has jurisdiction there. Given the fact that it is a private lot, not control. Let me. So, for instance, the lot between Sidebar and Ambia. Sidebar and Ambia has nothing to do with the collection. They get no revenue off of the parking revenue that is collected by Vinode. So this really becomes, to me, a Vinode issue, a conversation with Vinode, because he is the one, where all the benefits enumerate to. So I just think I don't know the answer, but I think it's going to be a sticky issue to have HPD roll up on private property and begin to enforce a noise, or I don't know.
It's a sound ordinance, so it's mainly
You're right.
no matter where they are, they should just start giving them sound ordinance tickets.
Yeah, you're
I feel like would be
100%
the
right,
easiest
but
solution.
yeah, and I'm just wondering if if there's a larger conversation here, and if there's anything that, the city and or HPD can do to bring Vinod into the conversation and ask, and basically asking him to help us police his lots,
Yeah.
right?
That was my thought.
Have
is
y'all
that
talked
let
to
me-
the
sorry, go ahead.
have y'all talked to the bar owners at all, or are they just not receptive at all? Over
I have
there?
not spoken with any bar owners. I'm not sure Keith or Mark, or if the super neighborhood has heard anything from them.
I have spoken with the guy who owns Ambia and Sidebar, and
I feel
we
like if
didn't
they
really
put like no loitering signs after a certain time, or at least ask the person to that has the lot to put the no loitering signs after a certain time, that would kind of help enforce the sound ordinance for HPD if they're willing to do that.
So let me do this. Let me go back to Sergeant Graham, and let me try and get a meeting between HPD and Vinod and myself, so we can figure out if there's a better way to tackle this then. And then I can bring this back to you guys at a future meeting. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
Vinod owns all the parking.
Yeah.
And it's a complicated issue, because a lot of the conversation that I had with Josh, who owns Ambia and Sidebar, was about the fact that, Vinod owns this parking lot. He controls the parking lot. All the money he collects in parking goes to him. Yet those two bars are required to be able to point to that parking lot to have off-street parking for their business. But if Vinod lets people come into the parking lot and collect money and they walk across the street, then they have no place for their customers to park. It's a really sticky, messy situation. And
Yeah.
so I think we really need to begin to start thinking about how we get Vinod involved in these conversations and start demanding that he have some accountability for what happens in his parking lots.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if they could put signs that would say with no loitering after a certain time within so many feet of this business, whether that's a private lot or not. And I mean, I know that's a complicated situation, but I feel like they could at least start putting signs that gives HPD the authority to give sound ordinance, which they don't need it no matter if it's private or not.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we get them as businesses and sometimes even at home. So I would think that would be the fastest approach, is sound ordinance tickets.
Okay. Yeah. They're all good. It's a good conversation and good idea. So let me talk to the HPD and see if we can talk to Vinod. Vinod had reached out to my office a couple of times about parking challenges that he
Or they ought
claimed
to just send me down there and do what I do down here. I go out there and yell at them.
Yes. If all the bar owners and the parking lot owners who were like ran
Yeah, if
their
they're all
business
like
the
you,
way you
Julie,
did,
we wouldn't
Julie,
be
we
having
wouldn't
these
even have a
discussions.
need for this
I
HPD
know.
enhanced security. So but we
I know.
appreciate what you do. So let me
Yes,
talk to
very much so.
HPD and let me come back to you guys. So we'll just table this for now. There's still about almost $12,000. So if they have a couple of more events this year, then we could fund that, or we can just hold on to it until we decide, if there's a different plan moving forward. So does that sound okay to you?
Yes.
Okay, great. Next slide, please. Okay, so that is the end of all the projects. Congratulations. You did a lot of work today. Very productive. It was great. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to run through our meter history and the financials. We did that at the meeting last week. We didn't have a quorum, so if you feel like you need to drop off, feel free. For the financial update on our meter transactions, you'll see in January of 25, we did about $14,000 in meter revenue. That's a pretty significant drop compared to prior months. January is typically a really slow month, but we have noticed kind of a little downward tick in Washington, so we're watching it. We're not projecting as much for this fiscal year as what was earned last fiscal year. Things could change, but right now there is a little bit of a drop, meaning not as many cars parking. So we've had about 2,500 transactions in January. We wrote 540 expired meter citations. Okay. So that was the January information. Next slide, please. On our compliance update, you'll see that our citation count, that's the first chart on the, well, it's my left-hand side. So for fiscal year 22, you saw that on average, we were issuing 243 citations per month. If you go to the next two columns over, FY 24, we are now issuing 583 citations on average per month. And that's largely due to FY 22. We had kind of a challenge with vacancies, and we've been building those up and working. It takes time to get people on board, but I feel like we're at a really good position in regards to our FTE count. So we're trying to stay, on that number and keep our roster as full as we can. Now look at the transactions though, the meter transactions in FY 22, there was 4,000 meter transactions. In FY 24, we've seen it drop to on average 3,600 transactions per month. So this is where we're noticing there is a steady kind of downward tick. It's not a drop, but it's going down. For the RPP tows in January through March of this year, you've got 97 tows. We don't really have any tows. Obviously for March, this information is pretty much just February tows, because in January we had limited tows due to the virtual permits. We kind of wanted to give all the residents time to get acclimated to the new permit. So January was a very low tow month for us. And we don't have March numbers in there. So you're looking at 97. That will change at our next meeting.
Can I say something about the tows and the
Yeah.
new digital permits?
Yes.
I might have had this conversation with Rami. I don't know who I had the conversation with, but have we considered some in the past you had a placard that you hung from your rearview mirror or stuck on your dash
Yeah.
to show indication that you had a residential permit and the ability to park in the RPP. With a new digital permit, there's nothing in your vehicle that signals to someone that that car is legally allowed to be parked in that zone.
Yeah.
Have we considered altering that thought process? And I ask that because it's very easy for Park Houston to travel down the road with their license plate reader cameras and understand whether, a car has a permit or a car doesn't have a permit. But for other law enforcement officers that also assist in towing, they've got to run every single plate.
Yeah.
So it becomes a lot less efficient for them to travel down the road and say, well, there's if I'm going to make the assumption that if there's a placard in the windshield, then I'm going to go with the default that he's got a permit. So it makes it easier for me to travel past 10 cars and go, well, 8 cars had a placard, so there's probably only 2 I need to check. Right now, if I want to check those 10 cars, I have to run every single license plate of each of those 10 cars, making it a much less efficient process for law enforcement to also assist in the enforcement of RPP. So
at first I was thinking maybe like a little decal or something, but that's going to be tough for visitors,
Well, right. I'm just saying, I mean, we could outfit law enforcement, with RPP readers, or I'm not RPP, with license plate readers.
Yeah.
But, now it just, we've kind of taken away that visual, hey, there's a 90% chance the guy's good, right? Versus right now I have no idea. And so in order for me to check, I've got to run every single plate.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a valid point. And we've been working to try and create a tool that's easier for the other law agencies to use versus what they're doing right now.
Right.
It's just the technology is not where we want it to be at just yet. So we're working on that, but it's definitely something that we can think about. I don't know if like the residents in your area still kept all their old permits, Mark, and maybe you just internally want to tell them, hang your old permit and the constable won't give you a ticket or tow you? If
Well,
that's
he
something
doesn't
that
even,
we want
he
to talk
doesn't
about.
even tow, he doesn't even tow like he used to because it's now a cumbersome process for him. You know, he used to be able to go down the street and say, well, because he could manage by exception, right? Now he's got to run the plate of every single car. And, you know, he's just a busy man on the weekend and he just doesn't do as much as he used to. So I'm just trying to come up with a way to,
Yeah.
to make it more efficient for
Yeah,
people to be able to look at a vehicle and say, there's a very good chance that that person has a permit, or I need to run that plate and see if that person should be
Yeah.
parked in this zone.
no, we've been thinking about it, but the thought of, kind of going back to mailing out all the permits and doing that is something that we really didn't want to go review again, but I think, I don't know, let me think about it.
Okay,
And let
thank
me
you.
figure out where the tool is that we were working on for the agencies to make it easier for them. And give an update at the next meeting. So
Thank
we'll look at something. Okay, next slide, please. Can you move on? This is the financial summary, and I highlight the 25 column in red. And if you go all the way down to the bottom, we have the meter revenue, we have permit revenue, we have expenses. There's no more capital expenses, so that's always zeroed out. And then if you go to the very second to the last line, that is what we are projecting for the parking benefit district to earn this year by the end of June. So our fiscal year is July 1st to June 30th. So on June 30th, we are projecting that the Washington Parking Benefit District share of the meter revenue will be $76,451. And if you compare it to the number that precedes it in the column right before that, you'll see in 24 we did about almost $106,000. So there is a drop. It's been consistent. Oh, thank you, David. I see you dropping off. I appreciate you for joining us today. So something's changing. So I do know, when I drive down Washington, if I'm out, well, I'm not out late very often, but if I come home like around 11, I notice that there's not as many cars as what I used to see. So there is some change happening. But that's what we're projecting right now. It could change. Astros could do really great. That always seems to bump us up. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll see at our next meeting how that projection changes. March is going to start baseball season. That typically we see an uptick in meter revenue. So hopefully we'll see that same uptick on the Washington corridor. Do I have any questions on this slide? Next slide, please. And I know we've got 6 minutes left, so I'm going to, this is just where we're at on the open project. So you see for the WOW roundabout rehab, we are using the allocation that was done back in July to pay the light bill. So you can see under the expenditure columns, that's our monthly light bill for the lights there. We have the flock camera licensing, which I think we should be getting the invoice pretty soon for 25. But if you look at the column underneath, the FY25 starting fund balance was almost $364,000. We did receive the reimbursement check for the one Crestwood sign. The insurance company sent us $6,490, so we got reimbursed for that. Currently, we have $30,000 in expenditures. That's based on what you see with the light bill and the flock camera payment, leaving a balance of $340,000. We added our FY25 revenue projection of about $76,000. So at the end of this fiscal year, there will be $416,540 in the Washington PBD account. We have an encumbrance there of $7,900. which would put your fund balance at $408,000. Now, this is all going to change because today we've made motions to approve about 100 and what number did we say that was?
$159,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And some change. So that's all going to change. So we'll update this for you next time. And I'm going to be splitting this page up because the project list is just getting too cumbersome on the same page as your fund balance details. So we'll have 2 separate slides. But do I have any questions on this? Okay, next slide, please. I think that brings us to the end and we have 4 minutes. So do I have any public comments or anything from our committee members? Anybody like to share anything?
Thank you from Camp Logan for all the work on the WOW roundabout. I will put that out to the Camp Logan Google group. That progress is being made.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. If you could credit our committee members because they spent a lot of time and effort on it. So I appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, I'll also put it on our Facebook page.
Thank you. Okay. All right. If I have no other questions, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mark. Second.
Second.
Thank you,
Second.
Sharon. All in favor? I know we're all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us at the last minute. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will start moving forward on the projects that y'all voted on today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
Have a good one.
Bye.